We all know that the ultimate goal of human life is union with Supreme Soul or the liberation. So we'll try to understand more about liberation through our discussion today. So we have very knowledgeable and experienced speaker Vijay ji with us today. So let's move on to our first question of the day. So the first question is, end of one life leads to another life and this cycle continues. So how can we break out of this cycle? So over to you, Vijay ji.
Jai Gurudev. In the meantime, you may give me the screen sharing right. Sringi. मंडलाकार है व्यापक विश्व महान तो सदगुरु का रूप है अनुभव में पहचान एक शब्द गुरुदेव का आको अनंत विचार था के मुनि जन पंडिता वेदन पावे पार. Okay, I'm going to share my screen, so that will stop the screen sharing by others. Before we try to understand the liberation and the way to attain liberation or way to reach to the state of liberation, we must need to understand in what state we are presently situated in. What is our current state? And then we can understand why there is an effort involved in rolling back to the state of liberation. So if you look at the screen, our original state was the state of liberation only. Originally, we were united with Almighty, wherein all the qualities that we had was from the Almighty. We were one with Almighty. We were in the state of liberation, Videha Mukta Samadhi, where we had no physical body. We were in the purest form of consciousness. But then from there, one seed of incorrect knowledge came into our consciousness. That seed of incorrect knowledge, where we started thinking that, oh, all this that I feel about myself is the Brahm. I am the Brahm. I am the Almighty. This very illusion that came into our experience was the seed of incorrect knowledge which caused the fall of the soul from the state of liberation to the bondages. So what are the different layers of body that we get in that downfall process? We quickly need to glance through it so that we understand that these are the different layers of the body that we need to break from to roll back to the state of liberation. So from the purest state of Hansa Deha, from the purest state of liberation, we fell into the state of illusion. We were still there at the same abode that's called Tripad Amrit, tri-quadrant of the Almighty. Symbolically, it is understood that in one quadrant of Almighty is the zone of creation, whereas the rest three quadrant of Almighty is the purest abode of liberation. So we were in the abode of liberation, but in the same zone we got illusion. And that very fall of knowledge brought us into the state of Kaivalya Deha, where we started thinking Keval Main, only I. It is I who is the Brahm. So this very illusion brought us into the state of Kaivalya Deha. So Kaivalya Deha is again devoid of all the Prakritic element. But the only difference between Kaivalya Deha and the Hansa Deha is that Hansa Deha is in pure wisdom, whereas the Kaivalya Deha is in illusion about the self. And then we
Hold on. Stop it.
got the attractions towards the Prakriti, the one quadrant where the creation exists. So though we still lived into the tri-quadrant of Almighty where there's pure bliss, but then we are detached from the bliss of Almighty and we are attracted towards the zone of creation. And that's when we fell into another body called Mahakaran Deha. So Mahakaran Deha, the Mahakaran body, is again the body which is not made of any Prakritic element. It's not made of any materialistic element. The Kaivalya Deha and the Mahakaran Deha both are in the body of consciousness only. But the difference is that in Kaivalya Deha, you have illusion about yourself. And in Mahakaran Deha, you have the corruption in your desire. Now you don't desire Almighty, you desire Prakriti. So first your knowledge was corrupted. When your knowledge gets corrupted, you get into Kaivalya Deha. Now your desire gets corrupted. And now you fall into Mahakaran Deha. Though you are still in the body of consciousness, you have not acquired any physical body, but yet you have fallen from the purest state of liberation, the purest body called Hansa Deha. You have fallen from there to Mahakaran Deha. By now, you have already got one clutch of bondage. By now, you have already got one clutch of bondage. And that clutch of bondage is called the bondage of incorrect knowledge, bondage of ajnanata. And then you enter into the zone of creation. The moment you first enter into zone of creation, you interact with the atoms of the Prakriti and you acquire Karan Deha. So Karan Deha is where the second clutch of bondage comes into effect, and that is called Jada Chetan Granthi. The first clutch of bondage was the bondage of incorrect knowledge. Now the second clutch of bondage is the bondage of inert element. Now you are bound by inertness. That's called Jada Chetan Granthi. So not only you are acquiring different layers of body, but in the process of acquiring those bodies, you're also getting clutched into different bondages. So after you acquire Karan Deha, these Prakritic elements, now you want to experience it because you have entered into this with the wish of experiencing only. And that wish is what drives into acquiring Sukshma Deha. You're already with the ingredient of these elements. So these 19 elements start getting created around you, and you acquire it, and you wear the Sukshma Deha around you. So now you're caught into Sukshma Deha, the subtle body, which has 5 senses in subtle way. You have subtle form of senses, subtle form of pranas. You have 5 subtle organs of actions, not the gross organs of actions that you see in this gross body, but these 5 sensory organs, 5 organs of actions, they are in the subtle form. And then 4 inner organs, mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankara. All this together, 19 elements are created around us, and we acquire subtle body. And then afterwards we go into the mother's womb, and we come out with the layers of stool body. So we can understand, when we're talking about liberation, liberation is to roll back from all these different layers of the body, and also break free from the clutches of bondages that you've acquired. By now we understood that we got the 2 clutches of bondage. One is the bondage of incorrect knowledge, and then the bondage of inertness. We are caught into inert element. And what is the third bondage? The third bondage is of karma. The moment you acquire the gross body in the human form, you start accumulating karma every moment. And for all those karma that you perform, either at the level of speech, or at the level of mind, or at the level of body, at the level of indriyas, at the level of speech, at the level of mind, or at the level of indriya, or to say at the level of body. These 3 levels, you have been constantly performing karmas. And for every karma, you have to bear fruits. And the system is such that if you performed karma in stool body, then the fruits of those karma also will have to be borne by the stool body only. And that's how you get caught into the stool sharira one after other. You lose one body, but then the residual of karmas, whose fruits have not been yet reaped, you need to acquire another stool body to be able to bear the fruits of those karma. And this is how the clutch, never-ending clutch of karma come into effect. So with this, we understand that what we need to break free from is five bodies and 3 bondages. Liberation is not possible unless you know how to go over these 5 bodies and 3 bondages. Because liberation is about rolling back to our original state. Sadhgurudev defines liberation beautifully. So let me now begin our session on liberation. I'm sorry, Shreyanji, I'll cover all the questions in one go. I'll just go over slides and build up the thoughts around it, and we'll cover all of these.
Yeah, sure, Vijay.
Yeah. So what is liberation? Swamiji writes in Swaraved, प्राकृत देह संघात से छूट प्रकट निज रूप प्रभु आधार स्थिर भया जानो मुक्ति स्वरूप। माइक देह संघात को त्याग कर अपने चेतन स्वरूप की प्राप्ति कर प्रभु आधार पर स्थित होना मुक्ति है। So what it means is that in whatever state we are right now, from here we have to detach from the materialistic body. Then we have to attain our own conscious form, and then all our basis of actions and basis of experience should be the consciousness of Almighty Himself. When you attain that state where all your actions and all your knowledge and the experiences, the way you sense things, the basis is not your indriya anymore. Right now you are experiencing everything and also performing actions by being constrained by the indriyas. You're 100% dependent on your sensory organs and your organs of actions. Whatever is the capabilities within these limits of indriyas, you can act and you can sense things within that limit. This is not liberation. If you're constrained by the limits of our indriyas, then this is what is called bondage. But when you break free from that limit and you're no more dependent on the body and the indriyas of the body for your experience, rather your consciousness is now driven by the supreme consciousness of Almighty. Let's try to understand this systematically here. When we look at our current state of experience, we cannot perceive things beyond the limits of indriya, right? Because we are dependent on indriyas. As long as
Immediately,
we are,
if we are seeing the PPT screen. So if you're drawing something, we are not able to see that.
oh, I'm sorry. So let me reshare my whole screen. I just wonder why I didn't share the whole screen. Okay, thank you for bringing that. So me, instead of that, it should, so let me first share the, I'll have to unshare. Oh, this is screen. Okay, so see if I share the screen.
Yeah, now we can see what is liberation question. Yeah, and the notepad.
Okay, so yeah, so initially I wrote these notes that when we are aiming for liberation, we are talking about going over 5 bodies, because we acquired 5 more bodies around the purest body called Hansadeha. So we need to learn the art of going above these 5 bodies. And we also need to learn how to break free from the 3 bondages. The bondages being the ignorance or incorrect knowledge, I would say, inertness, and karma. These are the 3 bondages that we have acquired in the process of downfall from the state of Hansadeha to the Sthul Deha. So what is our current state of experience? We cannot perceive things beyond the limits of Indriya. But Swamiji says, what is the state of liberation? State of liberation is that you are not dependent and constrained by the limits of Indriya. Rather, you are now based upon the consciousness of the Almighty, meaning whatever is within the reach of Almighty in experience. The consciousness of Almighty being the vehicle for our consciousness, we can reach that far. When we are in the state of liberation, we are now leveraging the consciousness of Almighty to experience things. And that is why when we are in the state of liberation, we are not constrained by the limits of Indriyas, because we are no more dependent on Indriyas for our experience. So when we attain that transition of our basis of experience from Indriya to the consciousness of Almighty, when our basis transitions from Indriya to the Almighty, after that only we attain the state of liberation. And that's why Swamiji says in this Sarved Doha that when we acquire our own true conscious form, and then when we unite with the Almighty, all our experiences are no more dependent on the Prakrit Deha, but it is on the basis of supreme consciousness. When we get to that state, that is what is called the state of liberation. So who can attain that state? Swamiji says that state where your consciousness is now based upon the consciousness of Almighty is possible only when we attain the complete detachment, complete knowledge, and the epitome of devotion. When the bhakti, the devotion, jnana, the knowledge, vairagya, the detachment, when these complete 100%, it is only then the Almighty is realized and one attains the state of liberation. To be able to come to that particular state, one also, I wouldn't say one need to exhibit, but rather one evolve into a state where automatically it does not desire anything from the world. संसार के किसी भोग्य वस्तु की इच्छा नहीं है उन्हें. Swamiji says you do not desire anything out of the world. Your seeking for the Almighty becomes so intense. Only those souls become eligible for attaining the state of liberation. So who attains liberation? One who has complete vairagya. One who has become anuragi. Anuragi means one who is 100% desiring the Almighty. 100% desiring the Almighty only. When you attain that great love for Almighty, then you become eligible for the liberation. Many people think that, well, whatever it is, but anyway, one day we have to die, we'll leave the body, and then anyway, we'll be liberated. we understand it very clearly that when our gross body ends, the other layers of the body continues and we reacquire another gross body. So end of gross body is not leading us to liberation, but that leads us to another birth. Swamiji says that जीवन मुक्ति सुख राशि है, मृत्यु कर्म वश जन्म, मरण मुक्ति होवे नहीं, मरण भोग में भ्रम. Swamiji very clearly says here that, on the basis of karma, the residual of karma, the cycle of birth and death that continues. After death, there is no liberation, but based upon what karma we have acquired, we are forced into another birth, whether we desire it or not. Which body we are going to get is not up to us, but it is up to our karma. Ideally, we make the way to any body, but then when will we get to that body is all up to the system of karma. So whatever karma we have done, based on that, the Almighty has the arrangement with the Akshar Brahm that pushes the Sukshma body into another body. So after death, there is no liberation, but only rebirth. Then what is the way of liberation then? If just dying does not lead to liberation, then what is the ultimate way of liberation? This is where now we will start diving little deeper into different states that we need to get to eventually reach the state of liberation. Our Swamiji says in Svarved that there are, just like we have 6 bodies, which we understood in the process of downfall of a soul, the 6 bodies that we understood was the, what are the 6 bodies? So 6 bodies are Hans Deha, Kaivalya Deha, Mahakaran, Karan, Sukshma, and Sthul. These are the 6 bodies. And Swamiji says, similarly, there are 6 states. There are 6 level of conscious state. What are those 6 states? So when you are in the Hans Deha, when you are in the state of liberation, you are in the Apta state. It's called Apta state. When you are in the Kaivalya Deha, you are in Turyatit state. Mahakaran, Turya state. Every time you go into deep sleep, whenever you go into deep sleep, where is your consciousness? At what level is your consciousness at that point? It is detached from the mind. It is detached from your indriyas, but it is with Karandeya. So the Sushupti Avastha, Sushupti, which is deep sleep, in the state of sushupti, in the state of deep sleep, where it's like dreamless sleep, you are with the Karan body. When you are in the state of dreaming, you are at the level of Sukshma body. And then when you're awake, awake means 100% conscious about surrounding, not dreaming with eyes open. That's when you're with the sthul body. So there are 6 states. And in all these 6 states, there are 6 different levels of consciousness. When you are in the awakened state, what is happening is your consciousness is 100% flowing outward. There is 100% flow of consciousness in outward direction. You are aware of everything around you. You're with the sthul deha, meaning all the 5 senses which are acquiring or communicating with the sensory subjects. You are very aware of it. If there is any touch, you feel it. If there is any smell, you feel it. Touch, you feel it. And like that. So you're with the sthul body, awakened state. So these 3 states are very natural with everybody. You have been dwelling into this sthul body, sukshma body, karan body every day. Every day there is a moment when you are not lost into anything, but you're 100% with the outer world. And so you're 100% with sthul there. And then there are moments, not only when you go to bed, but also when you are actually sitting and then lost into thoughts. So you dwell between sthul body and sukshma body. Whenever you're like getting into the state of dreaming, where uncontrolled thoughts starts coming into your mind. Even though you're sitting on the chair, you're awake, you're not on the bed, but your state of awakeness kind of dims down into the state of dreaming while you are sitting on the chair. So you're juggling between sukshma deha and sthul deha. And when you go to deep sleep, when you lose the experience of your sthul body, nor you experience anything from your chitta that usually had all the memories of your past, yet you are devoid of all those experiences. You are disconnected from sukshma deha and sthul deha. In that state of deep sleepness, you are actually in the body of karan deha. So you have been already passing through all these 3 bodies. You are getting into the cycle of these 3 bodies, but you have never known how we can reach to the state of mahakaran deha. Though you are having the body of mahakaran deha, kaivalya deha, and in the purest form we have the hansa deha, because eventually we need to reach to the state of hansa deha. When we are talking about liberation, we want to reach to the body of hansa deha, meaning we want to attain the apta state. Apta state. We are not able to cross even the deep sleep state. Beyond the deep sleep is the turiya state. We are not able to reach even there. And why is that so? Because naturally we can dwell only between these 3 states, sthul, sukshma, and karan. The turiya state, turyatit state, and apt state is the subject of a yogi. Only a yogi can pass through those states. and reach to the state of Turiya. So what is the state of Turiya? In fact, before I go further deep into it, if there is any question, any confusion so far, we can talk about that. Then we'll talk about Turiya, Turiyatit, and Aap.
Vijayji, I had a question, please. Just Gurdev, and wish you a happy new year to everyone.
Yeah. Jai Sri, Jai Sri.
Like, having a desire of liberation, we should not have a desire to get liberated. Is it acceptable?
See, the desire is inseparable from the conscious entity. The term desire that we use in our daily life is different from the inherent desire that the soul has. When we say desire, the desire usually mean the materialistic desire. Desire, when we say that, desire is the reason for the sorrow in life, right? The word desire, ichha hi dukh ka karan hai. In Hindi it is said, ichha hi dukh ka karan hai. So when we say here, ichha or the desire is the reason for sorrow in life, here desire, in short form, it has been termed as desire, but truly here means bhog ichha. Bhog ichha. Bhog ichha hi dukh ka karan hai. Bhog ichha is the reason for sorrow. But bhog ichha is, kind of in short form said here as ichha hi dukkha. Ichha is the reason for sorrow. So when we say ichha is not good thing to have, if rather get driven in life based upon what the destinies lead us to, people start thinking that way. In a way, it is fine to think that way when we say that we should not aspire our life based upon bhog ichha, but rather based upon the goals of the human life. Whether our indriyas, our mind agree to go for that path or not, but we should be driven by the wisdom. Our life should be driven by the wisdom. When we say our life should be driven by the wisdom, what is wisdom? What is the state of wisdom? The state of wisdom is to rightfully recognize the inherent desire of the soul. What is inherent desire in the soul? When you rightfully recognize that, that is when you are in the state of wisdom. You're not in illusion, because inherent desire of the soul can never be separated. Where there is consciousness, there is three inherent qualities: ichha, gyan, prayatna. There are three inherent qualities. You cannot separate it. Ichha, gyan, prayatna hai chinha sa chetan jaan. Jama tin yah nahi dishe takah jad kariman. The very reason you are conscious is because you have these three attributes in you. You have an inherent desire which drives you into action. Because if there is no desire, there'll be no action. The cycle of knowledge, desire, and actions are complementary to each other. When you get the knowledge of something, it is only then you desire of having that experience. And when you desire of having that experience, it is only then you get into action for acquiring that experience. When you get into action of acquiring that experience, it enriches you into the knowledge of that entity, in the experience of that entity. So action leads to knowledge, knowledge leads to desire, desire leads to action. The cycle complements each other. The knowledge complements to desire, desire complements to action, action complements to knowledge. And the reason we have this cycle, because we are not vibhu chetana, we are laghu chetana, meaning we are atomic piece of consciousness. We are not the omnipresent uh, conscious entity. We are atomic piece of consciousness. The soul is ekdeshi, the almighty is vibhudeshi. Ekdeshi meaning at one point of time the soul can stay at one coordinate of the space. And we, being limited consciousness, we do not have the capacity to hold the knowledge 100% in purest form all the time, because we are limited consciousness. And this is why this cycle is there with us, so that we can retain into a state or an experience that we should be in. If there is no cycle, then what would happen? Let's say you are in the state of liberation, you are 100% with the almighty, and if, let's say, you have no desire, what will happen when you have no desire of almighty's bliss? Then your consciousness will not be intensely associated with the consciousness of the almighty. And when that loosen up, then, because your effort of experiencing almighty loosens up, when that loosens up, your experience gets perverted. And this is why we fall into the state of kaivalya deha, because we are limited consciousness. But only when this cycle complements each other, the desire is there to acquire the experience of almighty, and you're putting an effort of keeping your consciousness into it, and you're constantly having the experience of almighty, this would continue, would persist, all because, not because you have desire of almighty, but also because you're persistent in sensing the almighty. You're persistent in experiencing and also putting an effort in associating your consciousness with almighty. All these three are very persistent: the desire, knowledge, and action. These are very persistent in the state of liberation. That's why you continue in the state of liberation. So, having said that, even when we are in liberation, we continue with this inherent desire that, oh, this bliss is unmatched, I would continue with it. You'll have that inherent desire within you, and that's why you will feel very joyous being in that bliss, because that is what is your inherent desire. So when you are in that bliss, you literally feel the bliss, because that is what is quenching your inherent desire. But it doesn't mean that your inherent desire ends there, but you're so engrossed into the bliss that you lose your own identity, and what you experience is the almighty's bliss everywhere. And in that state, it becomes very, very subtle that the moment you lose or you break the cycle of desire, action, and knowledge, The moment that cycle breaks into that state of, experiencing bliss, that is when the knowledge gets perverted and we get aham brahmasmi. So if the desire of Almighty has to continue even in the state of liberation, then why not here? It has, in fact, that is the desire which will drive you into spiritual path. That is why it is called mumukshu. Who gets liberation? The one who becomes mumukshu. There is a term for it. Only mumukshu means one who desire for moksha, who desire for the bliss of Almighty alone and nothing else. That is what is called mumukshu. So yes, the having desire for materialistic subject could be poisonous, but having desire for Almighty alone is the catalyst for the spiritual journey.
Thank you very much, Vijayji. It was so beautifully explained. Means it's a bounce spell. Very nicely clarified the funda. So second question I have, Vijayji. Now, Turya state,
Mhm.
how to become a yogi to achieve Turya state?
Sure. So let's proceed then with the session
Oh,
here.
thank you
Yeah.
very much.
I have one question, small question. So Vijay ji, Jivan Mukti, when we say a person has, he's a Jivan Mukt yogi, does that mean liberation only, or is there a slight difference between the two?
Yeah. So we'll come to Videha Mukti and Jivan Mukti later. That is part of this session a little later. We'll go over there. Yeah.
So liberation is not Jivan Mukt.
We'll talk about
Okay.
Jivan Mukt later.
Hmm.
Once we understand
Okay.
this, then we'll
Yes,
come
yes.
to Videha Mukta and Jivan Mukt. Yes. I mean, I have slide for that, so I'm going to cover.
Vijayji, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Jai Gurudev.
Yeah.
I just want to know that in our previous lot of saints we had, like Mira and Kabir and all those, they all, and even in our Dharma Granth, it is said that out of emotion or whatever, they say, we don't want liberation. We don't want mukti. We just want to take birth again and again, and I want to worship you. Can you just explain
Right.
about little bit about this?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Sure. So when I say mumukshu, so basically, what is mumukshu? When the moment you say that I want Almighty, that itself includes that you will get liberation. So when we were discussing about, is it good to have the desire of Almighty? Yes, it is good to have desire for Almighty. But what is even better? The better is to have desire of devotion. Because desire of devotion is even better catalyst than having desire of just the liberation. Because in liberation, the word liberation means breaking free from the bondages. Whereas the devotion is to have never ending love for the Almighty. So both are the same thing, but there is a difference. The difference is that at one place you just want to end your suffering. Whereas when you talk about devotion, you just don't bother about your suffering. All you aspire for, or rather you don't even aspire, the love itself drives you towards the liberation. So liberation becomes the byproduct of devotion. And that is why those who are spiritually elevated, they will say, I don't even desire liberation, I desire devotion. All I need is devotion. I want to get your love. I want to be in your love all 24 hours. So when we say devotion, bhakti, bhakti, when the bhakti completes, mukti happens. Mukti is, the liberation is the byproduct of bhakti. Only when the bhakti, vairagya, and jnana, when these three completes, mukti happens, liberation happens. You basically are united with Almighty, because the bhakti, the completion of bhakti is actually the state of union with Almighty. Only when, see, right now our bhakti is at the mind level, at our indriya level. So our bhakti has not completed yet. We go to temples, we go to churches, we go to mosques, we go to different pilgrimages. Our bhakti is still at the body level, at the mind level. Our bhakti has not completed. And we want to enhance the experience of Almighty. Right now, we are trying to experience the Almighty by the symbolic presentations of Almighty's act. So we look at the creation and we mesmerize, looking at how gigantic this creation is. My goodness, Almighty must be something extraordinary. And all that we start kind of contemplating within our mind, and we start glorifying Almighty, looking at his mesmerizing creation. Or symbolically, then we make the statue of the Almighty or some symbol of Almighty, and we start connecting to it. But how are we connecting? Our connection is at the level of emotion, meaning at the level of mind. Where there is emotion, it is within the periphery of the mind. So our devotion is still at the level of body and mind. Our devotion does not complete just by performing those physical and mental devotion. So when we say the liberation is a byproduct of complete devotion, it means that if you continue your devotion at the level of body and mind, at the level of emotion, and you die one day, you are surely not going to get the liberation, because your bhakti has not completed. Your devotion did not reach to the level of consciousness, to the level of soul. Only when the bhakti completes, liberation happens. And that's why the learned one, the wise one, the elevated yogi, they understand this mystery, and they say that ना मैं मुक्ति भुक्ति कर इच्छुक, ना मैं कर्म करीजे, प्रभु जी भक्ति अचल मोहि दीजे. O Almighty, all I aspire for is the unbroken devotion. Please elevate the love for you within my heart to the extent that it is unbroken. My love for you become unbroken. Not at the level of mind, because at the level of mind, your love can never stay stable. The unbroken love is possible only when the Almighty is in your consciousness all the time. But how will Almighty be in your consciousness all the time? In what form? In the form that you're sketching, or you're kind of making out of materialistic body? No, of course not. That cannot stay in your consciousness all the time. That can stay in your mind, maybe, kind of unbroken, in some broken intervals. You can remember that in the mind, but not in your consciousness. Your consciousness can attain the experience of Almighty only when your consciousness reaches to that refinement, when the surati becomes nirati, meaning the finest scale of consciousness that the soul can get to is called nirati. So when you attain to that refinement of your consciousness, then the Almighty's consciousness becomes visible to you. Right now, Almighty is hidden from our consciousness because our consciousness is kind of corrupted to the level of stool body. So when we refine it to the subtle body, to the Karan body, to the Turiya body, Turiya state, to the Turiyatit state, and eventually to Apta state. When our consciousness refines to that subtlemost level, that is when we reach to the level of Almighty, and the Almighty become visible to us. And when he becomes visible, he is not visible just to our consciousness, but our consciousness starts acquiring the bliss quality the moment it comes in contact with the Almighty's consciousness. And this is why you become so extremely blissful that you develop unbroken love for it. So unbroken love for Almighty can never be possible without having his darshan. Only when you get sakshatkar, the darshan of Almighty, then only unbroken love happens. And that is why when the bhakti completes, the jnana completes, meaning you get the complete knowledge, and also the vairagya completes. Now automatically all your materialistic desire will vanish. The moment you get the glimpse of Almighty, and the bliss starts coming into your soul, just like when you put iron piece into fire, the heat of the fire, the burning of the fire now will come into the element of iron, and the iron will be heated, it will acquire the heat quality. Similarly, when the soul unites with Almighty, then the bliss is acquired from the Almighty. You become extremely blissful. And in that state of sakshatkar, in that state of darshan of Almighty, the unbroken love evolve in your consciousness. So the bhakti completes, the jnana completes, vairagya completes, and the mukti has already happened. You don't then do anything else for the mukti. You're already mukt. So it is all happening together. When the bhakti completes, vairagya completes, the jnana completes, and mukti happens. You are liberated. So when we say, I desire for liberation, let's say you're not there yet. You're in the body level, and you say, I desire for liberation. You may corrupt your love for Almighty if you just talk about liberation. But when you talk about devotion, then you are driven by the love of Almighty, and the liberation will anyway happen. So the inherent desire that we have in the soul is of the bliss of Almighty. Now, the bliss of Almighty is attained when we liberate from the bondages. So the desire for the bliss of Almighty is what is in the root of everything. Whether you name it liberation or you name it devotion, but if the desire for the bliss of Almighty is there, then everything is in the right track.
Thank you, Vijayji. Thank you very much. So devotion is the answer. Like if
Devotion
you
is
have
the
devotion,
answer.
right? Thank you. Thank you.
Right. So
Vijayji,
yeah.
can I ask one more question? Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, sure.
If we really look into this, when the cycle starts, we are already connected with divine source.
Mhm.
And then the jnanata comes and the cycle starts of
Mhm.
rebirth. That means in our soul, there is already a seed that we have to again get connected with the Almighty.
Yes. Mhm.
You know?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
that seed, it starts sprouting at certain lifetime. It could be 100 lifetimes, it could be 200.
Mhm.
And that tells me every human being has to get connected with the divine. It's just a matter of number of lifetimes or number of yugas. Is my understanding correct?
There is little difference actually. When we say that the seed is present within the soul of having uh, the desire of Almighty, yeah, the seed of desire is there, but then the problem is it is not driven by the time. It is not driven by the cycle that, okay, after a certain period of time, automatically that particular seed will get its turn. There is no turn system here. The one that is suppressed within our soul will remain suppressed as long as there is a cover of illusion above it. So unless there is a conscious effort in removing those illusions, then the seed will never germinate. The pralay will happen, the srishti will happen, the pralay will happen, the srishti will happen, but the soul will remain in the one quadrant of creation. So when will soul get that desire of Almighty? It is only when the soul will make use of the vivek, make use of the wisdom. They have to change the course of their karma. Because only when you change the course of karma, the kind of karma you're doing right now, if you start purifying your karma and slowly start adopting vikarma, when if you recall the subject of karma, we have karma and vikarma. Vikarma, vikarma is those set of karma which leads us to the spiritual growth. So only when we start engaging more into vikarma, that is only when you start giving room for these seed to germinate. If let's say you're constantly engaging with the materialistic bhoga, then your state, in your inner organs would be such that it will further drive you into those bhoga only. Through bhoga, you are enhancing your attachment with bhoga. Though you feel that, no, I mean, right now, the moment, let's say we design, I'll give you an example. Let's say I have never spoken, right? I never smoke. In my current life, I have never spoken. And then let's say there is one of my friend who said, okay, let me try once. And he tried once and he did not feel good. And then he thought that, oh, good that I had never spoken in my life. I tried once and it didn't feel good. But you know what has happened now? Because he has broken out of not having spoken. So what happens is next time when he will get chance, out of some circumstance, some peer pressure of whatever it is, he will be more prone to smoking again than somebody who has never spoken. Because the seed of that karma is within himself now. And because he has already done once, there is better chance for him to do it again than the person who has never done it before. So karma leads to karma. That's why it's called bondage of karma. The kind of karma you engage yourself with, you will continue to engage with the similar karma all over again and again and again. That's why it's called raga. The kind of bhoga you have already gone through, the raga has developed for it. So even though at that moment, let's say you're fond of sweet and you eat sweet and you're satisfied at that moment, does it mean that you're satisfied forever? No. The next time you're hungry and there is sweet in front of you, you may still feel for it and you will go for it. You will again get into same action. So the karma, the mud of karma is such that this mud does not dry by itself. The mud of karma remains wet and it will continue to dip you further deep into it unless you put an effort to break free from this mud with the help of somebody who can do it. You need to improve, we need to improve our karma. Only when we improve our karma, then only the relevant seed of desire will get its turn. Not automatically, it's not over a period of time. So even though the seed of desire is there within ourselves for the Almighty, it will never germinate if you don't create the ambience for it.
Beautiful, Vijayji. Thank you very much. And to change our karma, that is where the free will comes. And we use our free will, and that is human body only has the free will.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think the time is up for today. So we'll continue on this next week. Over to you, Sriranji.
Thank you, Vijayji, for beautifully explaining such a complex topic. So what we learned is, we are into tribe bondages right now, and to get to liberation, we have to, break those bondages of ignorance, the bondage of Jada Chetan and bondage of karma. And when our devotion, knowledge, and detachment, when that completes, that leads us to the path of liberation. That's when we can liberate. So thank you, Vijayji. It was very helpful and very deep knowledge. So thank you very much for that. So let me share my screen. Okay. So let's move on to the next section of our satsang, where we appreciate warriors of the week. So warriors of the week are the people who meditate every day for entire week between Brahma Muhurat. We know that Brahma Muhurat is the best time to meditate, and that is between 3 a.m. to 5 or 5:30 a.m. Most of us now are able to take advantage of this time because of this initiative. We see that this list is growing day by day, and that is a good sign. In fact, to encourage more people who were recently initiated by Namdev Sarkar, we have also started another group, 21-day meditation challenge, because those who attended Namdevji's session, he did mention that to get, to imbibe a new habit, we have to continue with it for 21 days. So along with this warrior of the week, where we encourage people who are already regular in doing meditation to do it in the best possible time, which is 3 to 5 a.m. There is another group for new joinees to encourage them and get into habit of meditating twice daily for 10 minutes. We have another group, 21-day meditation challenge. That link has been circulated in our core group. So please feel free to forward it to any of your friends, family who are willing to join this journey. So let's encourage all of them to start on a positive note for this new year. So the warriors of the week for this week are Alara Canfield ji, Lal Mani ji, Maya ji, P. Murugan ji, Prachik Shirsagar ji. My name is also there. Surya Alam Raju ji, Tejinder ji, Vinita Kumari ji, and Yogesh Shirsagar ji. So we have other people who are called as inductees of the week. These are the people who have meditated at least once in the Brahma Muhurat. I know these names are very familiar. They are usually in the Warrior of the Week. So, the life happens, and we sometimes miss meditating a day, on a particular day. But all of you have been a real encouragement for all of us. And all the spiritual seekers. So congratulations to all of you. The inductees of the week are Amit Tadekar ji, Dipti ji, Geet ji, Jaswinder Singh ji, Monica ji, Raj Gupta ji, Ranjani ji, and Sriram Sahu ji. So thank you for encouraging all of us. Please continue to do so for rest of rest of our lives, right? Throughout our journey. Okay. So let's move on to the last section of our satsang. So in this phase, we will chant short version of Guru Vandana, Aarti, and Shanti Path. Vandana is the prayer through which we seek blessings of the Sadguru. We request well-being, health, wealth, and seek his blessings for our spiritual knowledge. I would request Prachi ji to recite Vandana. Over to you, Prachi ji.
Jai Sadgurudev, Vandana. Prabhu Kalpa Santa Samaja Uttama Sarva Dharma Acharya Hai Jiminadya Ashrita Sindhu Ke Hai Vishwapathamaya Karya Hai Prabhu Satya Santa Samaja Tera आप रक्षा कीजिए जन सदा फल ज्ञान भक्ति वृद्धि दिन दिन कीजिए. बोलिए सद्गुरुदेव भगवान की जय. Over to you, Shriram ji.
Thank you, Prachi ji. Our next prayer is Aarti. Here we acknowledge the power of Almighty and pray that all the disciples experience eternal joy, love, and freedom from worries under His holy guidance. I request everyone to stand up for the Aarti, and I would again request Prachi ji to sing last few lines of Aarti. Over to you, Prachi ji.
Aarti. Guru Murati Gati Chandrama सेवक नयन चकोर पलक पलक निरखत रहे गुरु मूरत की ओर. श्वेत श्वेतमय श्वेत है श्वेत श्वेतमय श्वेत तीन पाद अमृत भरा श्वेत महानद श्वेत. अष्ट चक्र सब शून्य पर धरा धरा के पार ताहा सदा फल घर किया भूली पड़ा संसार. बोलिए सद्गुरुदेव भगवान की जय. Over to you.
Thank you, Prachi ji. So our last prayer is Shanti Path. I request everyone to sit down for Shanti Path. With Shanti Path, we chant for peace for everyone in this universe. May Sadguru Dev bless the entire cosmos with peace, love, and prosperity. I'll again request Prachi ji to recite last few lines of Shanti Path. Over to you, Prachi ji.
Shanti Path. हे प्रभु शांति स्वरूप हो शांति शांतिमय शांति 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 जन शांति हो पूर्ण शांतिमय शांति. हे प्रभु शांति प्रदान कर दूर हो सर्व अशांति देव सदा फल शांतिमय Shanti, Shanti, Sukha, Shanti. बोलिए सद्गुरुदेव भगवान की जय. Over to you.
Thank you, Prachiji, for wonderfully and so soulfully reciting all three prayers. So we have come to the end of our session. I would like to thank all of you for joining and making this satsang successful. Your seva bhav and your desire to continue on the spiritual path is really commendable. It encourages all of us to stay on this path. Special thanks to Vijay ji, Monica ji, Jaswinder Singh ji, Tejinder ji, and Prachi ji for your active participation. So I would pray to Sadhguru for peaceful and spiritual week. In fact, peaceful and spiritual year for all of us. Thank you, everyone. We will meet next Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the same Zoom meeting. So have a wonderful day ahead, and Jai Sadhgurudev, and Happy New Year to all of us, all of you. Thank you. Jai Sadhgurudev.
Jai Sadgurudev.
Jai Sadhgurudev, and thank you.
Jai Sadhgurudev.